guy. They made a mistake. They need to set it right.
It's the digging in that's confounding. They have so much authority to deport people, and if they think for a minute that they have the facts on their side, they could grant him due process as is required. And if they're right about the facts, they could probably do what they want. They simply cannot deport him to El Salvador.
Is it confounding?
I mean, I guess I don't want it to be confounding to me anymore, but I do not understand why a team of people not known anywhere on the planet for competence digs in on the things where they are the ones on the record nodding to their own incompetence.
Mm-hmm. I think ultimately, they follow the rule that don't own a mistake. Double down.
But they already did. They said it was a mistake.
That was the mistake. That was the mistake, right? So I've gotten to the point where I'm asking myself this question. Widen the aperture for a quick second. I don't know what it's going to take for the American people, for 78 million Americans, to deal with what motivated them to make the choice to elect this man again, to make the choice that will allow these people to undermine every fundamental assumption we have, that you can just be disappeared, and then they can argue that, a court is getting in the way of their ability to exercise, foreign policy in some ways, right? I don't know what it's going to take for 78 million Americans to deal with what motivated them to make this choice. And the choice that they've made, we have to just be honest, is to literally throw the republic into the trash bin. And this is just one example. The tariffs is another, right? They made the choice. Now, what was behind it? We have to grapple with it, because it's the snake, it's the beast coiled up in the heart, the bosom of the country, as Frederick Douglass said. And the fact that they are doubling down on this shows you what kind of human beings they actually are.
Say more.
We chose a felon who is more interested in loyalty, who's more interested in retribution, who's more interested in grift than in democracy. And we chose a felon because we didn't want to elect a black woman. So to read that, to actually explicate that, is to say we would rather destroy the republic than for that to have happened. And until we grapple with it, there's no amount of protesting I could do. There's no amount of resistance that could come into play to actually force 78 million people to grapple with what motivated them to put themselves in this position.
And I think you're getting at how we're going to have to go through the next 4 years, right? Because I haven't on this show covered the talk of a third term, because I believe it's a shiny object. I believe the things driving Trump's approval rating down are the man-made destruction of the economy, abandoning due process. But you're right in that 78 million people voted for someone who wants to shred the Constitution. Why?
That's the key.
What's the answer?
There is a sense in which the underbelly of the country, what Melville was writing about, right? That there's this sense, this tragic dimension of the American project, where the extension of basic democratic principles, the idea that dignity and standing should be accorded to anyone, no matter their gender, no matter where they're from, no matter their color, that has been challenged because some people believe that by definition they ought to be superior to others, and that the country should be organized in such a way to ensure that fact. And we have been willing to do monstrous things in defense of it. Monstrous things. And people have been using it in some ways, Nicole, for their own self-interest. They might not be monsters in that sense, but they might be unabashedly greedy. They just want to make money with and exploit people's grievances and hatreds in the way. But we've been dealing with this from the very beginning. And, people will say, Eddie's on his horse again. He's on that more horse. But we've been dealing with it.
Ties everything together. I mean, I want to give you a last word, Andrew. I mean, the greed piece is where I was where my brain goes on these law firms. And look, I didn't sit in Brad Karp's seat when he looked at his firm that I'm sure he loves and is proud of falling apart. But if it's all the things we thought it was, if it's this beacon of justice, if it stood with people who in the beginning maybe were not given all the rights of sort of a ruling, if it stood for the things that it thought it stood for, could it really have fallen down over money?
So I don't have the perfect answer, but I do think that it's multiple answers. And so one is that Donald Trump has realized that capitalism can be used to undermine democracy. And so, the power of the purse is being used. And so you have people who are educated, who understand exactly what our esteemed Princeton professor points out, and it's not powerful enough to overcome that concern. But I think there also are people who actually just don't view the world as we do on Earth One because they're not exposed to it. That this is, the media is so fractured, and they're getting their news in such a structured way. Because of not just Fox, but the internet. And so, a lot of this is, of course, I agree with Eddie completely, but I'm not sure that speaks to everyone. That there are people who I think are good people who just don't actually see it that way because they're not actually getting the news in a way that's presenting, black is black and white is white. And they're being told that January 6th, it was a good event, not a bad event. And they're being led to believe that. And so I think there's multiple answers to the issue of sort of why we're here. Just to be a lawyer for a moment, I do think that you can go back to the Supreme Court of the United States and the case that we're talking about. The Supreme Court has an opportunity to do the right thing here to get us back on track on something that is so central to due process in this country.
All right, well, we'll keep watching. Andrew Weissman and Eddie Glaude, I got nothing but love for you guys. Thank you for this conversation. When we come back, how Donald Trump's firing of top national security officials has left our country more vulnerable right now, today, at the worst possible moment. We'll bring you that reporting next.
The grind catches up with everyone, even me. That's why I trust Cunol Ultra High Absorption Turmeric to support my joint health. It's the #1 doctor-recommended form of turmeric that helps you keep doing the things you love at every age. Cunol, the brand I trust.
Stanley Steamer is proud to be the leader in deep cleaning, cleaning over 1 million homes and businesses every year, using powerful equipment custom built by us. It's not clean until it's Stanley Steamer Clean.
Stanley Steamer gets your home cleaner.
I saw war, bombing, shooting. I'm worried for my future.
كتير رعب وطبعا هلا يعني أنا بحس بالرعب الكبير